would request our trainer for today, Ms. Nilanjana, to start with the class. Just to introduce Nilanjana ma'am, she is an alum of prestigious JNU and has worked with the industry for more than 14 years now. She's a statistician, she's also a data scientist, and she has an amazing grip over her data. We requested her to take today's session in Excel because Excel, we believe, for data enthusiasts is like the magic tool. It has been with us forever now, and it's going to stay forever as well. Even because in spite of a lot of other tools available in the market today, we still have Excel that has maintained its presence, and it can be felt across industries and across continents. It becomes imperative for professionals to understand this basic tool, and not even just understand it in basic format, but also understand certain functions and tools that come along with the Excel, so as to grow further in their career even better. So on that note, I think I'm going to hand over the baton to Nilanjana to take the session ahead. Thank you so much. This is Nidhi from Irizpro Learning Solutions. Nilanjana ma'am, you can begin.
Yeah, thank you Nidhi for the introduction. And hello guys, good morning. Thank you for joining this session today. And let's make it exciting for the next 1.5 hours on discussion. I wouldn't say a masterclass as such, but it would be more of an interactive discussion-based session that I'm looking at, and I hope I would get the same response from you. I have a presentation today that would be just a base on which I would just start the discussion, and I have few Excel sheets just for the starters to kind of set the tone right, so that we understand some very popularly used and very I would say the most common tools that are used by analysts when they're using Excel for their data analysis purpose. So I would just share my screen. Before I do that, I would also want to put it out here that if there is anything that you want to ask, any question or any, as I said, I want it to be more of a discussion based. I want to hear from you as well about your experience on Excel, and why do you want to, what do you think, where do you see yourself in Excel? If I ask you to tell me how confident you are in using Excel, or is there any pain areas that you face? In case if you want to ask a question or discuss something or put in a thought, you can put it in the chat, or you can ask me to unmute you, and we can unmute, and then you can ask, because otherwise if everybody unmutes, then there is an issue with the bandwidth and also sound. So we can go that pace, right? Okay, so I will just share my screen. I think I will need the host approval to do so. Yeah, okay. 1 second. Let me know if anybody is not able to see my screen. So let's start the discussion. So as Nidhi had correctly pointed out, that Excel is something which is very, very commonly used across the industries that which essentially works with data. So anything that, and I believe every industry works with data, be it sophisticated fintechs in the market who are trying to churn out prediction models, to manufacturing industries who are trying to keep log of their stock or inventory. Anything that has to do with data, Excel is the go-to tool for any analyst. So earlier in olden days, we would have, I'm talking about pre-computer days, we would have these files, right? Big files in cupboards, which would have data stored in them. And for us, when we think about 80s and 90s, the office would be those big, huge files around everybody's desk. Now, thanks to tools like Excel, those files have disappeared, and we have this fantastic simplistic tool which is used to start with basic data analytics. And people, when especially in the data science field, if anyone of you are interested, people think that, oh, Excel, I mean, that is no big deal. You need to know a lot of coding, you need to know a lot of other platform. But what I have seen with my 15 years of experience is, first you have to be really solid in Excel, because at the end of the day, Excel is very simple, and it kind of gives you a lot of command on the data that you're working on. So yes, there can be other platforms there where you kind of can churn out various advanced things that you can do with your data. But Excel, from the mere fact of it being simplistic and visual, when you can actually see what is happening in the data, you can map out every formula, it becomes very easy, and analysts are very comfortable using Excel. And that is something that you have to know. That is a basic skill that is expected of you to know for any industry now. As I said, now offices have changed, data, the way companies are storing data have changed. So Excel is a basic thing, just like how you should know how to email or how to write something in a Word doc. Similarly, it's a given that you should know how to work around Excel. So given that, it becomes very, very primarily important to kind of be comfortable with Excel and be confident about the fact that you can, if whatever kind of data is thrown at you, you can handle it in Excel and make it your own forte, so to say. I just want to, before I go ahead with a few features that we can look at in Excel together, I just want to understand what is it, like, have you worked on Excel, or are you starting to know Excel? If I could just understand the level of comfortable, how comfortable you are with Excel.
You can type a Y in your chat box.
Yeah. So if you are starting, or you are a mid-level, you use Excel daily basis, you know some functions, or you already have, you are comfortable completely with Excel, you want to know something more advanced in Excel.
Okay, I can see some yes there, Nilanjana. So Sridhar says yes. Bhavna says using Excel only on daily basis from past 4 years. Then I have another response which says I'm comfortable using Excel but want to know the advanced techniques.
Right. Okay, so when we say advanced techniques, right? Okay, so I can see the responses, maybe. I can see them. So thanks for still letting me know. So from the responses that I see in the chat box, some of you are using Excel on a daily basis for quite some time now. You are comfortable using Excel, you want to know about advanced techniques, and some of you want to learn advanced Excel. So it's more of, when I say advanced Excel, right? How do you define what is advanced and what is basic? Okay, so for basic, I would believe that you would know, say, sorting data in Excel, calculating summarized statistics on Excel, calculating mean of a particular information, average value, or you would know how to import various data sets into Excel, right? So that would be basic, right? Doing some mathematical computation using the formulas and the ribbon. So those would be basic, right? And there would be some formatting also that you would be doing in Excel. When I say advanced, right? Advanced is those things that you are already doing in Excel, how you can do them faster, and if there is any other way which can make it lesser error prone, so to say, because Excel, I mean, there are various add-ins also that you can kind of use in Excel. So those add-ins are also part of using Excel for advanced or more deep data learning experience, right? So you can use those add-ins to do such analysis. It won't be just basic formula driven, but it would also do some, say for example, for statistical analysis, it may also do some advanced prediction models too. That would be your advanced Excel that we talk about. That is one part of advanced Excel. Another part would be to basically do pivot tables. So basically, whenever we get a data set in Excel, what is the first thing that we want to do? We want to summarize it. And before summarizing it, when I say summarize, I mean that, okay, if I have a data set, like for example, I think rather than going to the PPT, I would rather share a presentation, Excel that would be, I mean, just to go directly to the platform that we are working with today. So suppose this is a data set that we have. I'm not able to. So basic data set that we have of, say, region, it's a sales of stationery data set where I have region, I have rep information, I have item, order, date, units, unit cost, and then I have a total field, which is a simple multiplication. So in a way, what I would be looking at is, first instinct would be to me to summarize this. When I say, okay, let me look at what is the, if I'm looking at this data, I would like to see, okay, what is the average of total revenue that I have got. If I just select it, I look at the right, I get these summary stats, right? So this is, I mean, every analyst have a different way of looking at data, but Excel supports most of those ways, is what I wanted to say this. So if you just summarize this column here, you would get some basic stats about this column. Now let's go a little more advanced. This is very, very basic, but let me go advanced. Okay, I want to maybe then look at my top 10 reps who have brought in the most amount of revenue. So if I have to do that, one way of doing that would be to just sort this by my total, which is my revenue. So I select the entire data set, and again, I'm still in basic. Okay, I'm not gone to anything which can show me some advanced analysis. But in basic, I would select this, I would go to data, and I would simply just sort. When I click on sort, I get a window like this open. I open this and I go to total, and I want to see the top best 5 reps that I have in my data set. So I do a largest to smallest, and I then do OK, and I get my top 5 reps here. Okay, but so this is again basic. I have just got a data, I have summarized it from just selecting the numeric field, and I've got some summary here, and I have also sorted it to see my top 5 reps who have got me the revenue, right? Now if I tell you that, okay, I want to see top reps region wise, I want summary region wise, or I want to see top reps region wise, I also have an order date, so maybe I want to pick up some trends out of it. Then we go a little bit more advanced here. Okay, so have you guys heard of pivot tables? You must have. Those who are using Excel on daily basis must be, comfortable using pivot tables. Pivot tables is just, yes. So I think I'm getting a lot of yeses. So, but is there anybody who has not used pivot tables? Because this is something which is the most prerequisite that you really need to know before you can actually be very comfortable analyzing your data. So has there anybody who is not used pivot table or doesn't know what pivot table is? So just for the benefit of those who are not still, I would say, aware or comfortable using pivot tables, let's look at a pivot table together, and then we will go through some more advanced stuff that we can do with data, right? I think somebody is typing. Okay, so I think some of you have just started using Excel. So for their benefit, I'll just quickly show you the beauty of using pivot table. So I wanted to go it step by step. Just looking at the summary of a particular column, it's easy, right? You just select and you see. If you want to sort, it's easy, right? But if you want to see region-wise and take in more insight from your data, then there is an option where you can just select your data, go to insert, and then go to pivot table here, and you select this. You can go to a new sheet. What you do is you select a table range, put in your table range, and you don't have to put it if you've already selected your table. Then choose where you want the pivot table to be published. So then if you want it in the existing worksheet, then you can just select any one cell here. Or if you want a new worksheet itself, you don't want to disturb your data, just do OK. And this is where you have, where you see here, there are on the right hand side, you see all your variables that are your columns have come in on your right hand side. These are your pivot fields. You could select any one. You have how many regions? You have central, east, and west. This is again a very good way of looking at what is there in your data. Okay, because see, currently the data that we are working with has how many fields? It has around 18 rows, right? If I just see, there are around 18 rows. 18 rows are good. I mean, they're easily manageable. But if you're talking about, say, 50,000 rows, okay, then the best way, then you can't kind of look at, okay, what are the regions that I have? What are the unique items that I have in that data? So if it's a 50,000 row data, then how are you going to then look for those items? Either you can filter and do, that is a more basic way of doing it. An advanced way of doing it is just draw up a pivot table. And that is something that is, I think, those who have used pivot table would vouch for it. Very, very commonly used tool that you really need to know, right? So here, if you see the region, if I just select region in rows, I know what are the regions that I have in my data. Now, suppose region-wise, if I want to look at my revenue, I just click on the total, and it gives me the sum of the total. That is the sum of my revenue. Okay, so here I can get my region-wise revenue values, and then I can do my own analysis on it. So maybe I want to see what is the contribution of each region towards my revenue. So obviously from the values, it looks like Central has the highest contribution, then East, and then West has the lowest. But having said that, if you have, say, 10, 15 sub-district level data that you're working with, then the best thing is to just take out a percentage share here. And we all in data world and in analysts, the group, we all love to talk in percentages, right? Because everything is relative. So you take this is percentage. Okay, but the percentage thing is not working. Now it should. So what do I see here? I say that this data that I had got from my supervisor, I have been able to give them an insight that, okay, Central region is actually contributing to more than majority of my sales, 51% of my sales. So very basic level of data analysis I have already done using my pivot table. And there are various other things. I could do a cross tab. So what do I do a cross tab like? I say region, and for each region, I look at, okay, split this out. I look at the reps. I said, okay, central region is giving me maximum revenue. I want to, maybe the HR wants to announce a bonus for the top 2 reps who are performing in each region. So in that case, you can just use your pivot table. Under region, you can add another row, which is your rep names, right? And here it gives you this report immediately, wherein region wise, it gives you a breakdown of which representative is giving you the maximum revenue, okay? And who are the top 2s, and that can be kind of then worked around. Now, for those who have not used pivot table, do you see the power of pivot table now? For you, if you have never used it, you would understand how quickly and how easily you can actually derive some insights from this tool, this one single tool in your Excel. And don't think about the data being very less, and this could have also been done by sorting and filtering. No. Think about data in real world, which would be like 50,000, 60,000 rows, maybe sales report of a particular state, which will have various districts and sub-districts. I'm talking about sales report because that is typically a very commonly used example given. Think about other things. If you're looking at banking data, think about applications for credit cards every day, and then you're consolidating it to a monthly application data. And then you want to sort your customers, seeing, okay, which are those customers, what is my customer profile, what is the age group. So all of that we can do only when we term the common term that we say is summarize your data at various levels. And again, here summarize me, I don't mean just sum. You can also find out various other statistics here. Like if you see here, if you select on this, and okay, so in the values field is what you want to look at, your area, your aspect of interest. Here my revenue was my aspect of interest. You can have various, you can have age groups, and if you want to see what is your dominant age group, what is the average age of your customers from a particular segment who is buying a particular kind of product. So there are so many rules that you can apply, and applying those rules means just applying some filters, it's applying some, just basically dragging down some of your variables to the columns or the row sheet. You can also apply filters here. So let's look at columns also, how it looks. Suppose I want to put in another level here where I say that, okay, region, rep, and I want to see which items are making more money. So I will what I'll do is I'll just select items in the column. So it gives me a cross tab of all the information that I wanted for a report, which will tell me, okay, this is my sales report. These are my regions. Who are the reps in each of these regions, and where are they doing good? Which are the units are they selling well? So if there is a product which is not selling well, even if the rep has been doing well in other products, but that product itself does not have a market, that would come out from here. That is a simple insight that we can draw from here. And there are various other things. So the extensive Excel course that we take, we would spend one whole session on pivot tables only, wherein we are going to show you what are the more additional stuffs, like what do you do, how do you use these kind of, these are just simple sorting, but there are various other things that you can do with your pivot. You can have value filters, you can have label filters, and we have case studies, and we kind of give you some time limit. Out of it, you can actually, while you learn about these filters and all these other options, you can bring out some really exciting reports from your data, something which will keep you an edge ahead of somebody who just knows pivot table with just basic things that you can drag to columns and rows and all. But here, once you know, that is the advanced Excel course that we usually work with. We take some popular tools, and functionalities in Excel, and we exhaust it by showing you what all you can do with a particular tool and a particular function, and that gives you an edge over somebody who just knows the function, right? So this is about pivot tables. We can also spend some time on something which is very exciting in Excel, is importing data. I don't know which, it can also depend on the version of Excel that you're using, but usually the Excel that I'm using, and which is being used broadly now, here you have a very, so when I say importing data, now data cannot always be in Excel. Okay, there can be data that your client has given you in text doc, or a Word doc, okay, or a text doc, or maybe there is an external link from where you have to download that data. Okay, you don't expect in your work, in your profession or in your industry, the data will always be in a proper standard row column Excel format, right? So I have a data set in text format. How do I download that data set? So I'll just show you the data set that I have. 1 second. Yeah. So if you see, this is the data set that I have. I hope you can see it.
Yes, Nilanjana, we can see.
Yeah, okay. So if you see here, I have some email IDs. This is one kind of data that I have in my notepad. Suppose client has given very simple task. I've received this data and the client asks me to, use this data, and I want to kind of bring out the username from these email IDs and do some other analysis to kind of track that username to some other activity that user must be doing in the client's website. If I'm doing a website or a click analytics kind of a thing, I'm just giving you an example, a case study. So my main task would be, as an Excel user, to first of all, and I'm comfortable using Excel because my rest of my data is in Excel. So my first task would be to import this data in Excel, right? What is the instinct that I will have? Just copy and paste, right? But again, think of this as to be a very huge set of data with multiple delimiters. What are delimiters? Delimiters are signs or symbols which basically divides two text format. Okay, so here I have two delimiters. I have an @ and I have a dot here, right? So I'll come to the delimiters in a while, but this is my task, right? So what I'll have to do is, and I don't want to, so again, basic Excel, just copy this. I can just copy this. And paste it here. Now, how am I going to, now divide or segregate the @Gmail from the username? One basic Excel people who have used Excel, one technique they would know is to go to data and do text to columns. Okay, so I do text to columns. Such a window opens up. I go to there are choices that you can give, either fixed, width, or delimited. We usually give delimited because data is usually delimited. Then I go to next, and here they give you different types of delimiters that are there, that can be there in the data, the popular ones. But here we don't have a popular one. So I put my @. So if I click other and I put @. And suppose if there are two @, one after the other, then I can also, to be on the safer side, click on this, say to treat consecutive delimiters as one. So if there are two @ the rate, then it will be treated as one delimiter. And then I do next, and then I do finish. So this kind of does the trick for me. Okay, but imagine this to be a really huge amount of data, and there are various other things that you can do to your data even before importing it into Excel. That is an exciting function that takes us to a little next level, at advanced level, of where you have a get data functionality. So if you can all see this, you click on get data. When you click on get data, you see all these options that you get. So you can import data from a file, which is just not text, but it could be a JSON format, it could be some other workbook, from a folder or a SharePoint folder. You can import data from a database. So it could be a SQL. These are all various databases. It's okay if you don't know about them. Those who have worked with these kind of databases will know. But these are various databases from where you can pull in the tables of data that are there. Then there is you can import data from Azure platform and also from online services as well as other sources. And do you see this exciting part here as web? So if there is some data, maybe you are into RBI's website and you want to download a table from there. You can go to this from web, give the link, and there are various interesting things that you can do to directly capture data from those websites. Okay, these are the things that, again, in our extensive class, in our extensive Excel class, advanced Excel class, these are the exciting things that we talk about. I mean, the basic thing that I just showed you would be a basic Excel class, right? But these are the advanced things that we talk about. And why we call about advanced is because this really does a lot of, it has a very quick turnaround time. It's smart way of working around Excel with these kind of functionalities already there, rather than simple copy pasting, because then this is much shorter and smarter way to work around with Excel. If you know these functionalities, it is definitely something which is going to help you and set you apart from somebody who just works with Excel on a traditional way that we are usually used to working. I think so. Here, if you go to from text and you select on the data that you want to import, do import. If you see here, this is an exciting thing that opens up, an exciting window that opens up, wherein you have your data here. So one way of doing it is you can just load the data, or you can go to transform data. When you go to transform data, a different window opens which has various things that you could do before you actually import your data into Excel. And this is something that we again capture in our course when we do advanced section. All these ribbons are explained, and here, for example, our purpose, we want to take out the usernames. So I would just go to split column by delimiter, and do you see here there are various other options that you can use, by digit to non-digit, by lowercase to uppercase, by positions, by number of characters. There's so many other interesting things that you can do before you actually import the data into your Excel. So here we go to by delimiter. If I click there, it gives me the option. It is a leftmost or a rightmost, or each occurrence of the delimiter. Maybe there are @Meenakshi @gmail.com. So which one to consider as the delimiter? So that also you can specify here and then do OK. It has already made this change. Now I don't want this column in any case in my data, right? This is of no use to me. So I just select this and I can select on remove, and I can select on remove columns, and I can remove this column. So only the usernames come up, and now I go to close and load, and my data has been imported. So here the difference is it took just 2 clicks for me to get this data. It is again 13 rows. So copy paste text to column. There were various things that I had to click and finally get the data. Then I had that Gmail thing which I had to delete. But here I could just, before even doing that, get the data, use this get data option and do all those modifications that I wanted to do in my data, because I would know best how I want my data in Excel, and then get my data directly, right? So and there are various other things that you can do with your data before you actually get it in Excel. So this is something which is little advanced than just importing text data in the traditional way that we have been importing when we use Excel. Okay, is there any question? I'll just pause here. I'll just go to VLOOKUP. Is there any question, Nidhi? Okay, then I would just take you to another very critical and important formula in Excel, which is very commonly used, which we call as VLOOKUP. So if you see here, this is again, I mean, VLOOKUP is a commonly used formula in Excel, but there are various I would say a more smarter or advanced way of using VLOOKUP, which is called the index match function. So that can be also used to basically apply the functionality that we are going to apply now. For the benefit of those who have just started to know Excel and who are not yet very comfortable, I think this is one formula that you must know, right? So if you have this, you have suppose you have this HR data. We're just turning it to be HR data. Any form of data you can visualize in your mind. But let's look at this. You have your employee numbers, and then you have first name, last name of your employees. You have full name. You have some ID and the gender, date of birth, and there would be a start date, which would be probably start of the job. Now, what I want to do is, suppose this is one data that I have, and I have another data in a separate sheet, right? So then suppose I don't have this start date here. The separate sheet has only employee number, first name and last name, right? So then I want for each of these employee number and employees, I want this column to get populated, okay, with the start date. Now, what is basic, very traditional way, or I would say a very long time taking tedious way, would be to select on these employee IDs one by one and then copying the information that I want. So here, for example, I want the start date. So I would go select on employee number and then look at, so if I want the start date for say Excel 00, and mind you, these are also some employee numbers, not all. So I select on this, say suppose this Excel employee number, and I go here and then I kind of select on this, okay, and I have here the number. So I just see and I say, okay, this is what, so I pick from here and I do a copy and then I do a paste here, right? So this is one way of doing it, but imagine doing that all like 15 times. That's not obviously the best way of doing it, right? So that is where VLOOKUP comes into play, and VLOOKUP means vertical lookup. So it's all these columns lookup that they say. There is something called HLOOKUP also, which is not that commonly used, but that is basically horizontal lookup where you look at rows. But coming back to VLOOKUP, you can just use equal to VLOOKUP, and this you would understand why it is so popular, because there are various occasions where you will have data at different sheets, right? So in that case, just to link those sheets together, you would need a very strong function which can do that. So here, let's go back to this function. You have VLOOKUP, then you have a lookup value. So lookup value is essentially the value which is usually unique and common between those two sheets that you're trying to link and extract information from, right? So here, employee number, I would not go with names because names are usually not unique. They can be the same names. So I would go with employee ID or employee number, which is usually unique. I select this, then I go to table array. So this table array is basically from where you want the specific information. So where is the start date? The start date information, 1 second, just unfilter it. Okay, so I just select on this. I go to the table array or the data where that particular information is. I do a select and then I just hard code it. Basically, I put function F4 so that this is my reference table. Okay, and this is just used to drag the function, so it's easier that way. Then it asks for column index. So column index is which is the column number. So what you have told Excel till now is what is your ID, the common ID that you should look for in the other table, which is this, for which you want to extract additional information. That is your lookup value. You have told Excel about the table, the entire table range. Now you have to tell Excel which information you want to pick up. So you don't give Excel a name, you give the column number, because Excel kind of calculates the number of columns, and then whichever column number that you have given, it picks up that as your information. So I want start date. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my column number would be 8. And then I say false. When I say false, basically what I mean is I want exact match. So here I get the information. Now, if I just drag it, I've been able to link these two files by this one small formula. However, I can now extract as much information I want for these selected group of employees that is there in this data. Right? So that is the power of Excel, of VLOOKUP. But now, if we go a step ahead, and if I say that, okay, if you notice here for VLOOKUP, your employee number has to be the first column of the table. Otherwise, VLOOKUP doesn't work because it reads to the right. But if suppose your employee number was in the middle, then VLOOKUP, and you want to VLOOKUP something to the left of this particular column, then you can't use VLOOKUP. Then you have to use two functions, which is called index and match. Now, those functions, we talk about it again in detail when we do our course, wherein we start with VLOOKUP, and then whatever deficiencies that VLOOKUP has, which will basically lead you to kind of again set your data in a certain way. You don't have to do that. You can just use index and match combination of these two functions, and you can do the same thing with your data as what you are doing with VLOOKUP. But only thing is that the data is not then structured in a certain way. There are no prerequisites for index and match to work. Okay, so I think these are few of the I would say critical functions that we start with in our advanced Excel course, and then we build on this as to what are the various other things that we can do with that function, and what are the, I would say, limitations of these functions, and how we can work around it. Okay, I'll just stop here. Okay, so I think the concern that I believe is coming is from the fact that whether this is advanced Excel or when is advanced Excel going to start. Now again, as I started the session, I had mentioned advanced Excel term itself is different for different participants, right? So I am trying to cater to, I have selected certain functions which are very, very popularly used, and I'm trying to cater to the larger audience, wherein somebody who, we have participants who are not very comfortable just starting off with Excel, participants who already worked in Excel for a long time. So maybe these are not news to them. These are maybe something that they have been using on a daily basis. So the issue is, what is advanced for you? That is the issue. So I think the best thing to go about then is to kind of list down what you want to know, because your advanced can be different from others' advanced. Want to know in the sense, what are your pain areas in Excel, and is there any specific function that you're looking for which you want to explore more and understand, because if you have already worked with Excel, you would have already identified certain pain areas that you would have faced during your work with data in Excel. So if you could share those pain areas with us, certain things that you want to learn even more or even in more detail, then I think that would help us to kind of then design these sessions in a way that is beneficial for you as well. Because there are people who may have not at all looked at pivot tables or VLOOKUP earlier. So for them, this would be beneficial. But I completely understand for you, this may not be the advanced thing that you're talking about. There would be something that you want to know more about, say, a pivot table, or you want to know something more about, say, your domain of work. The ask for your domain of work is maybe analyzing your data in a certain way. So if it would be good, I mean, I think if you could just put those through to us, as to what are your pain areas, what are things that you are actually looking to discuss. It would help us in a better way to kind of cater to your requirements. Right, Nidhi? I think that should be the way forward.
Yes, I think that is how we should go ahead then.
Okay.
I would suggest y'all can just put it in chat. Is there any particular function you want to know? Then we can just take up that. Right, Nilanjana? We can do that, yeah?
Yeah. I just want to show something, one more thing in Excel. I think for those who have not, maybe somebody who is into reporting, is something called conditional formatting, which is also something which is very commonly used in Excel. Again, thinking of a very large amount of data, if you keep in your mind, then if you want to, when you're creating a report out of your data, there is something called conditional formatting with your data. So formatting is simple, right? Formatting would be just, maybe if I want to kind of format this, I want to just say I go to data, or I go to home, and maybe I just do a custom, I do a number here, or I just put in some other format. So these kind of formatting can be done in Excel, but and these formatting is nothing. I mean, you have these keys, alignments and all of that. So we're not talking about those formatting. What we are talking about is, suppose you have employee overtime, right? So here you have this data. You want to format it in such a way that somebody who is going, say, above 8 hours, you want the format to kind of you want it to be highlighted in a different color. So you just select this, okay, employee overtime, and then you see here there is a ribbon called conditional formatting, right? So you go to conditional formatting. You see there are so many options that you have here to format, and you can actually put in a new rule. You can say average. If a particular you kind of average out your employee time, and then if you want to see that who is that employee who is doing consistently more number of hours than the average hours that other people are putting in. So it depends really about the question that you're asking to your data, right? And what is the business problem or the objective that you are looking at. So in that case here, just to show you how this works, you can just go to, say, highlight cell rules. You can do a greater than. Our business problem here is simple. I want to highlight those where it is more than 8 hours. So I just put in the value here, greater than 8 hours. And then this can kind of fill in whatever color I want to. I can also do a custom format. And then I do an OK. So immediately it will give me those customers, I mean, or those employees who are putting in more than 8 hours. Simple way I can then select, suppose if this were like 1,000 rows, I could just select the data. I will go to data, I will go to filter, and when I click on the filter, you see there are filter by colors, filter by numbers. There are various things that you can do even by just by the filter option. So I can just go to filter by colors. I select this, and it throws up those IDs. Maybe the IDs are not mentioned here in this data, but it will throw up those IDs who are going over, who are basically giving in more hours of work and who are going overtime. I can then simply select this data into some other sheet, maybe. And then do further analysis on only those guys who are basically going overtime. Okay, so conditional formatting and then filtering out on those can also work when you are basically looking at just filtering out only certain specific customers or certain specific accounts or employees on whom you want to do further work. Now here you can also put in an indicator here, said, okay, I can put an if condition, and there are various loops and if then else conditions that you can work with in Excel. That is also part of our advanced Excel course that we do. There is and, or, if. These are something that you use to create a new dimension to your data. So here, if I want to put in an indicator, say, if I want just an overtime indicator, I can just put something called a function called if. Very simple test. It's a logical test I'm doing, that if this is greater than this, and I would just have to quote this, then put a 1, else put a 0. This creates an indicator. It will, I think, okay, the formats are different. So that is again something that you should keep in your mind. Now, if you see, the ones are getting, the ones I've created an indicator which kind of throws up a 1 whenever there is an overtime happening. Okay. Now I can put an and condition also. So maybe they belong to a different function. So maybe minimum hours for this particular function is, say, 6, then it is an overtime. And if this is, say, 6 that they need to put in, so I can loop in an and condition here. So if, and then and then I say, maybe just this is maybe greater than 6, or I just put this. I give a comma and I say, just for example, this is greater than, or maybe I just put this one. So when I put an and condition after an if condition, I can put in different rules, different conditions that I want to set before I create this indicator. It may not have to be one logical test, but multiple logical tests. I can replace this and by or as well. So or would be, it will, if any one of these tests gets passed, then it will create an indicator. And would be, I want the function to pass both the tests. Only then the indicator will be getting created. And then, you know, you can work around, basis your business problem, you can work around these and or if logical functions. But again, I wanted to bring in this logical function aspect here because it is again very commonly used when you are actually working with data and you want to create an indicator, or it doesn't have to be indicator. Maybe you want to sum up an array of values using various conditions to that values, and then kind of bringing up a sum on an average. So various other things that you can do with these logical functions that are there. But if, or, and, these are the ones which are usually most commonly used as logical functions. Okay. So I think these are certain things that I wanted to discuss. If there is anything that you want to ask me with respect to Excel, any other functions that you want to maybe discuss, or we can share some case studies or some if there is some pain areas that you're facing, we can help you kind of work around that. Let us know. Otherwise, I primarily wanted to, for this session, wanted to show you about conditional formatting, very popular, pivot tables, and what all you can do with pivot tables, and what additional things that you could have done if we had a full-blown course on this. That's all what we cover. Getting data a very interesting way, just not text data, but also web data and various other forms of data that you can bring in into your Excel, and pre-processing before putting it into Excel. That is important because that saves a lot of time when you're working with Excel. When the data is if it is not in a certain format, it gets into you end up spending a lot of time processing that data before to kind of make sense out of it. So pre-processing can be done with that get data functionality itself, with all those ribbons that are there. And then, of course, VLOOKUP and the logical function. So these are main 4 categories that is very popularly used in Excel, agnostic of industry. Now, Then comes the industry aspect. So if you're working in a financial industry, you would obviously use some financial functions, or if you're working on a data science industry, usually you work on coding and other platforms. But if you're working on Excel also, you will use time series analysis. You would use add-ins which will have, say, linear regression, other kind of regression run on your data, and for forecasting and prediction purpose. So in our advanced Excel course, we have a separate module which talks about statistical analysis on your data. So that is basically aimed at people who use data in Excel for these data science purposes. So there are certain things that you can do in Excel which is interesting from these kind of forecasting, prediction, those kind of models. So there are these things already available, these functionalities already available. I completely understand if you think that you wanted to know something but that has not been covered in 1 hour's time. It is difficult, but I wanted to cater to certain very, very key functions to start with, agnostic of the industry and agnostic of the domain. If there is an industry specific or domain specific pain area or interesting area that you want to explore, you can always reach out to us later also, and we can kind of work